I don't know, man. I'd put it back in the box, send it back to Amazon, and say, you can have this.
Do you record in 1080p?
I mean, probably. I don't usually record, so the most you can get on here is 720, apparently, on StreamYard.
Oh, really?
Yeah, looking at the settings at least, because I have a high HD cam, but 720 is the highest it'll go on here. Pretty sure this goes up to 1080p though.
I opened up another Microsoft support ticket.
Oh, what's happening this time?
It's actually the same support ticket I opened up uh like 2, 3 years ago. I I'm not able to receive. I can't create an Azure Service Bus connection from a Xamarin Android client.
That's weird.
Is it? I have a hard time believing that what I'm doing is like bleeding edge, especially when I've been trying to do this for like the past 3 years.
Maybe it's just non-standard. Like, I don't really think of opening up service bus connections from a client ever. It's like everything gets funneled through a web API. I don't know why we do that. It's just I don't know if it's security or whatever. It just feels weird to go directly to the infrastructure. Plus, if you need
And
to change, if you want to change out the infrastructure, you're kind of stuck with.
if it feels weird when your use case is to receive push notifications of data, not push notifications, but have data pushed to you instead of continuously polling.
No, no, that's that's what SignalR is for. But um, well, and it's not even SignalR. It's like WebSockets. You can use WebSockets. You can use regular sockets. Um, just I mean, polling is an option too, as a fallback mechanism. SignalR just, I think SignalR, what it does is it's a multi-strategy thing, so it will potentially, use WebSockets, but it might poll as well if you don't have the option for WebSockets. Um, but like I said, I think if you're doing native stuff, you could even use just regular sockets.
So, mm, yeah, SignalR, I think its advantage or the requirement is that you have two clients that are actively in a session together, meaning that, and feel free to correct me, but I was understanding that for SignalR, especially when it's applied towards desktop or mobile, like the application needs to be at the forefront and running in order to relay status back and forth or relay data back and forth between the two devices. In my case, someone can order something and then put the phone down, look at different apps, and then like half an hour later check up on their status. And so the thought process was to use Azure Service Bus so that you don't necessarily have to have real time communication, but you still have messages queued up. And I don't think Signal R is a technology where you queue up messages so that when a device is back online and listening, it pulls from that queue of what it's missed. I don't believe Signal R accommodates that. It's just real time, right?
Yeah, you'd have to put in the queuing yourself, um, which is probably another thing where I wouldn't depend on the device to be the thing that receives it. Because like if you were gonna go and try to look at your notifications on, because I'll give you a good example, and this won't apply so much to beach delivery, but for DoorDash, there's been plenty of times where I've used my phone to look at alerts. I've received text message alerts and I've actually just gone on to the website and tried to pull up my alerts there. So what I'd expect that to happen in that type of scenario is probably that like some sort of application at the edge where it's handling those notification messages, receives those, drops those into a like a NoSQL database, and that's where it's stored until the end of the transaction, um, and probably even beyond that for a while. And that way, you can retrieve those messages from any client that connects to it, not just the device that happens to be linked up to the service bus instance. Um, and SignalR would be used to give real time, to give real time notifications if you're looking at the page. And it can be used to probably shove all of the
Yeah, so I
notifications.
use SignalR for
Oh, go ahead.
I use SignalR for real-time location status updates, right?
Yeah,
On the maps part, but that's it.
yeah. So in that case, all you're using Azure Service Bus for is as a data store, um, as a queue data store. When you could just have an active receiver on one end, drop that into a NoSQL database, and pretty quickly just pull that the next time you connect up from a client. Not polling, because you don't need to poll for it. You what you would do is you would do your initial request to get the latest messages, populate those,
mm,
then set up a SignalR. Well, you'd probably do the SignalR thing ahead of time to receive
so
real time.
I don't I don't think so, but I'm open to learning. All right, so if you remember, I have my underlying architecture. I think the best decision I made when building all this out was an event stream, right? So I'm using a NoSQL database, specifically Azure Storage Tables, and I basically have different streams of events, like for example, streams for a order request and all the events that are associated, or all the historical events that are associated to that one order request. I have events for, or an event stream for the courier and its saga, um, amongst other things. And so, like, that's where I'm storing the data so that I could query it later. But everything else, like, I really don't want to query on the customer side. I don't want the customer to say, "Hey, are you at the depot yet?" Or I don't want the customer to query if the courier is at the carrier or depot location, right? I just want those details to be pushed onto the customer if the customer happens to be looking at the app. Else, to your point, it just gets saved. But I just figure instead of using SignalR, I mean, I'm using Azure Service Bus on the back end. Why not use it on the client? Because messages are still being published to topics that other services have an opportunity to respond to, right?
Yeah, I think that the problem is that um, well, unless you set it up as so, if Azure Service Bus, I don't think is set up the same way as like hubs, Azure Service Hubs, or not Azure Service Hubs, Event Hubs. Just, they're two different. They're slightly different technologies, right? So
It's built on top of it.
yeah, but Hubs, Azure, or sorry, Event Hubs does a little bit like you're saying. Is it actually stores? It's like Kafka, from what I understand it, and so I can describe Kafka, but I can't necessarily speak to Hubs. But I assume it's the same thing. Event Hubs um, is that it will save all of the messages in a store in sequence or whatever, and there's rules you can apply to things, but then depending on which consumer group connects up, you can re-get those messages, and then you can replay messages and all these kinds of things. As a service bus, which is more of a straight up queue, once you consume those messages, they're gone. So if I connect up on this mobile device and I get my messages, and I don't know, my phone dies in the middle of receiving those messages, they're gone. I can't handle them. So now I'm going to go connect on my desktop. Well, now I've lost all those messages that are in the meanwhile because the consumer has taken it. There might be a way with with durable topics or something like that within Service Bus. I know that there's other
You mean
message
as your
buses that have
durable
it.
functions, you mean?
No, so there's another. It's not really an event bus. It's a message bus that I've used where they've had the idea of durable topics that stay alive until every consumer has read from it. But I think still, even there, you'd have to register every consumer that you'd want. Like,
Yeah, you have to do that up front.
yeah. So the thing is that I think that the paradigm stays the same if you do all of the receiving and stuff on the back end and you store it into a database there, and you're not really querying the courier to say where are you. You're querying the stored event stream, I guess, just to ask what was my most recent information that I received from this. And what you're doing then is if you have like the I don't know what's the customer side, the customer app side. What you're doing then is building a model of what they should see on the back end that can be retrieved from any client that happens to connect up to it. SignalR would be useful just to let them know that there's a new thing that they have to look at if they're already looking at a bunch of stuff. But that doesn't mean you wouldn't still save the messages off to a thing. Um, Now, if you were using, like I said, Kafka or whatever, you could technically connect up to create a new consumer group for every client that connects up to it and read off the topic. I don't know, again, if that was the intent of how this was. I don't think of topics as being something you create and destroy really easily, but maybe
I
that's
do.
an okay thing.
I do.
Yeah.
So the all the topics are all the topics I create, they have a lifespan. And so I think by default, and I need to make it a value within the or a key value pair within the configuration file.
Yeah.
But it in general, the lifespan of a topic lives for an hour and a half if it does not get engaged. Meaning that if there is no subscription that taps to see if there's any messages in that topic, then after 90 minutes, that topic gets destroyed automatically. And the intent is to reduce my computing cost
Yeah. I mean,
because
that makes sense.
a topic gets you have a dozen topics created for each order request, right? So order request 1, 2, 3 gets dispatched, and then you get the following topics: uh, courier requested 1, 2, 3, courier declined 1, 2, 3, courier accepted 1, 2, 3, courier forfeited 1, 2, 3, courier arrived at pickup station 1, 2, 3, courier arrived at customer drop off 1, 2, 3. Like there's a dozen of them for each order requested. And so, in theory, if you're if this app or if this system is processing, let's say, I don't know, 50 orders an hour because I'm serving Miami Beach, Fort Lauderdale, Virginia Beach, Venice Beach, and a whole bunch of other beaches nationally. It'll probably be more than 50 orders an hour. And I end up having like, I don't know, 5,000 topics. I'm going to be paying a lot of money, even if those topics aren't being engaged, especially if those topics are just sitting in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock in the morning. The way that Azure Service Bus works is those topics are continuously being polled, I think like every second, which adds up when you have like 5,000 topics that are being polled every second. I learned that like a couple years ago when I got my bill for not destroying topics when I had like 70 of them just sitting idle. I know
Yeah.
it's more
See,
information than what you asked for, but
no, see, I would have probably architected it differently. I would have had a single. So for that type of event or that type of stream, I would have probably just had a single um, queue or topic, and then I would have had a bunch of competing consumers that were responsible for taking that data off the queue and storing it off into like I said, a NoSQL database, and then triggering a signal R message to any listening clients to let them know that there's new data available.
yes. Are you taking into consideration the cost of computing?
The computing costs,
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you? It's a sincere question. Do you understand the pricing model of Azure Service Bus?
that it's based on. Well, I don't know even if I would have used Azure Service Bus,
Oh,
um,
okay, that's a
but
good point.
yeah, no, I don't. I guess I'm not. So what is their pricing model?
The so for every message that gets produced, there's a cost to it.
Yeah,
Period. Every message has a cost.
okay,
Okay. Also take into consideration when you have a topic, right? You have a queue and you have a topic. A queue is a message goes in, and whatever consumer is first to pull that message is gone, right? It's FIFO, first in, first out.
yeah,
Think about a grocery store with a whole bunch of cash out counters or whatever, queues, lines. So that's a queue. A topic is you and I are both interested
yeah.
in
I know what
the.
topics and
Okay,
queues are.
okay,
Yep.
all right. So what happens with a whole bunch of subscriptions to a topic is that message gets duplicated. So
Yeah.
if you have 10 subscribers to one topic, you incur the cost of 10 messages, even though that message is just one historical event that 10 parties are subscribed to.
Yeah. See, I wouldn't make it a topic. I'd make it a queue. So looking at the way that I'm thinking it, just looking at a high level, the way I'm thinking of it is that um, this would be cheaper overall. So you'd be fine with the basic plan on Azure Service Bus because all you really need is queues. Um, you don't even need scheduled messages. The rest of it, sessions, dedupe, transactions, topics, resource, none of that you'd need. You're literally using it as just a decoupling mechanism. So you need queues. You'd have potentially just one queue per each, operation or each,
Yeah, I get
event
it.
type. So
I have
then
the mental model now.
your operations are,
You got to get
uh,
a courier.
yeah, but you have, so it's by API calls, right? So you're only really doing the API calls, those message operations. So I don't know what they mean by message operation, the pricing model here. Um, but
Each message that gets realized has a
yeah,
cost. But
okay,
I think I know what you're saying.
5 cents a
So,
million. That's I mean that's not that much. Um,
well, one, if you look at the Azure portal and when I launch when I produce a message in Azure portal, it doesn't show one message was produced. It'll say 70 messages were produced. I don't know why, but there's a lot of other things going on the back end. Whenever you use Azure portal and you query stuff, like messages start getting fired off. So it's not like order is placed. Okay, there's
oh
literally one message. No, there's so much going on behind the scenes that
yeah,
uh,
there's probably an
dozens of
administrative one.
messages. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's probably has a command topic queue or a command queue. So service buses will have like a they'll create a topic that they can receive their own commands on. And so all of those requests coming in to create the topics and stuff might be, and to do this subscription and stuff might be what's that is. I'd be curious to see what would happen if it was restructured in the way that I'm describing it. So because you on a basic plan, it's 5 cents a million operations. There's no hourly cost for any of it. There's no um, okay, so there, yeah, there's just no hourly cost. It's just 5 cents per million. Um, and then so there is a cost for brokered connections. The first 1,000 per month of brokered connections are included with Azure Service Bus standard tier. And then there's more per each connection brokered. So you'd have a less brokered connections because you should be just doing, well, no, you'd probably have about the same amount. Well, no, if you open a connection and keep it open, you'd probably be fine. Let me see here. But the big one here, I think was, or no, was I thinking that was the
No,
big one?
but I like your solution though. I think it's simpler and it's probably more cost effective. Is I dynamically create a queue that has a suffix, in my case, of the order number, and then um, your your customer and your courier subscribes. How's this work? I have two queues. I have one queue for customer. I have another queue for courier, in which they both are associated to an order request. That order request probably could be a suffix. The order number could probably be a suffix for both customer and courier queue. And then the status updates get published to both. And the customer and the courier, they just pull each one at a time. And I think that reduces complexity versus me creating a dozen topics, separate topics, just for one order request.
Well, even beyond that, I would be. I don't even know if I would. Well, for that particular use case of you're just trying to send out message, like I wouldn't even create multiple topics for each user. I'd create a single queue um, for each message type or each set of message types. Um,
A queue that both the customer and courier share.
no, 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 no. It would be a well, I mean, technically, you could probably just have them all stream through the same place, and just have like a
Filter.
notifications like service that just handles notifications, and it's agnostic to whether you're a courier or a a customer. But if you did want to keep them separate and have them received, I would create like one. I would create one, probably a single queue to handle all messages going from all couriers to all um, customers. you know, obviously they're only going to one, but and then vice versa. So,
When
which the vice versa should be very little.
well,
Like,
when you
no, I
say
know what you mean. Yeah. The other thing is that for actually the real time location updates, those might not actually need to be funneled through a server. There are mechanisms where you could, and I don't know how this works in the mobile app, but I know in the web there are mechanisms to just create direct connections between two things and send messages directly. Although then you lose a little bit of data, but in terms of what you're doing, and then you have problems with if you're trying to connect up from other devices or whatever. But um,
why is this so much smaller than everything else? Like I expect this beverages to. Are they both looking at the same? No, okay. I'm going back and forth. What you said, I think, is accurate. In hindsight, I would have one queue per customer, one queue per
no,
courier.
one queue per all customers.
Yeah, but then
Yeah,
I'm still paying the cost of a message
aren't you paying a
going to
cost
all
on message?
couriers when it just needs to go to one.
It's not if no, if you use a queue, it only goes to one. If you use a topic, then it goes to all. That's the difference between a topic and a queue.
Uh,
So if you're using
I
queuing,
get that, but you, how does the courier in Miami Beach get that message from a customer in Miami Beach versus a courier in California inadvertently getting an order request from a customer in Miami Beach?
yeah, and that depends on that's where you're well. So for when you're connecting up to retrieve messages, you're just querying a database for your particular
Okay, so
identifier.
a filter applied to, I think I'm understanding now.
Yeah,
You can apply a filter to, no, I don't
it's
think
like
it's going to work like that. So hear
select
me
all
out.
messages where my ID courier ID is 123. If you were to put this in a relational database, that would be which you technically could. It would be this that it would be select all where whatever, and then for Azure Service or for SignalR, you have a hub that you're subscribed to, and you would have to route it to that particular hub. Um, I'm a little fuzzy on my SignalR in terms of I haven't used it enough to know what the thing is, but I believe you can set a group ID on an Azure service or on a SignalR hub, and then you can specify, hey, route this to this group, and that would allow any listening couriers that are in that couriers group, which would be if they're using one phone or then they're looking at their laptop, to receive the same message. So
I hear what you're saying, and I think
yeah,
what you mentioned, I don't buy like the last 10% of it, but I think using queues, in this case, I would use one for a customer, one for courier, would significantly reduce the cost. Right now, I'm just trying to get this thing out.
yeah, yeah. Don't let the
I
don't
wish
let
you would have challenged me 3 years ago on my back end design
yeah.
when I was
I think
learning
I
Azure Service
did,
Bus.
but I just I don't know. It seemed like I don't know. The thing is like I don't know that this isn't a I, I don't know that this isn't a like valid way to do it. I just or like a good way to do it. I just it doesn't isn't something I've seen. That doesn't make it bad. And don't let me get you know switch you up here. I just haven't seen it done this way, and I don't I wouldn't design it this way myself. But I don't know
A
that
lot
it's
better.
the wrong way, if that makes sense, or if that the other way is better. I think there's less overhead in terms of I think what you gain is a little bit of simplicity. Every message that a courier needs to send or to publish off to whatever gets funneled through the same queue. Um, you can scale up your consumers of that queue just based on demand for like how much lag there is on the queue and just process them off because all you're doing is taking them and storing them into a database. Um, you don't lose them if you're trying messages if you're trying to open up different connections based on like a browser versus whatever because you've persisted them, which you could get through like I said Azure Service Hubs or whatever it is, um, or Kafka, which is what I'm more familiar with. Anyhow, but yeah, I wouldn't let the good be the enemy of great if you think that it's better, and just keep going with what you've got unless it starts costing you a lot more than what you want. But it would have saved you, I suppose, the hassle of opening up Microsoft tickets to solve. Hey, why doesn't this client connect up to the Azure Service Bus?
Yeah. Oh, you don't do mobile, do you?
No, not really. I mean, I've done websites that are mobile friendly, but I'm actually want to really try to do a progressive web app sometime just to see how that goes. If you look at Starbucks's app, Starbucks's progressive web app is just insanely good. And I'm like, I was just flabbergasted by how good it is. Have you ever like looked at a progressive web app in a thing where it's just
I've been on Starbucks. I downloaded their app before. Um,
So you don't have to go to the app store though. Like you literally just go to the website, and once you start to like engage with the website, it asks you if you want to install it. But the installation doesn't take you to the app store. It just installs it as a progressive web app right there. So it's like an app, but it's not an app, not a native app. Um,
I, I added these QR codes, and so I got a break. I think I told you that I was going to create a separate solution for vendors like beach
mhm,
vendors, and so they would patrol the beach. A potential customer would maybe be interested. The vendor would extend their phone out for the customer, scan this QR code right here. Customer
mhm,
scans it, the GPS coordinates of that customer gets recorded. The customer gets taken to a a store for them to purchase this charger, quote unquote purchase, even though they're renting. And and then once the vendor receives a notification or alert that the customer made the purchase, and the vendor hands off the product or the rental, and then the customer receives a text message thanking them for their purchase, and then and within that text message they also are told when the rental is due, um, and then they'll get a scheduled uh, text message reminder, probably like 20 20 minutes, and then in increments of probably 10 minutes of when their rental is going to be um, expected to be picked up by the vendor again. And then the
mhm.
vendor gets scheduled alerts when the customer's rental is due for pickup, right? All that is right now. I just dumped some of the logic in here in this customer app, but it's really going to be extracted out. Actually, I created a module. Dude, I got like 36 or something. I got 35 projects in here, but I I threw it in this vendor folder right here, but it's probably going to be a separate solution. So,
Cool.
uh,
Yeah, that thing where the QR code would be scanned, and see that's something where like Orleans would be really useful for. So like when you click that thing up and then do the scan, it should be able to post back and let a service, you know, you should be able to create like a grain or a virtual actor that represents the fact that this is presented, and then when you scan it on the other side, you should be able to route a request or response to that grain, or a request to that grain to tell them, or a message to tell them that they scanned it, and then send a signal back down to the phone to say, oh, they did it. And then this just goes away and says, oh, you know, accepted or whatever. No, you still need the close to escape if they haven't scanned it. But I'm thinking about like when you, I don't know if you've like hooked up like a device to your TV, like a Azure or like a Amazon Fire Stick or something, and you go to, or if you go into Google and you're like trying to do two factor and you click like, yep, it's me, and then it just picks it up on the other side. I'm
mm.
pretty sure something like that uses an actor model. But
Hold on, can you say that again? You're saying apply an actor model to accomplish what?
well, actually, I think actor models would have, you could model the entire, almost the entire thing using actors like Microsoft Orleans and build out a scalable thing. This is actually probably a very good use case for Orleans. Um, and I've actually thought about just trying to like make a copy of your beach delivery just in Orleans just to see how it fares in terms of design. Um, but the thing is so with whatever so every instance of that QR code that gets popped up, you're going to generate probably an ID to represent that particular session or whatever. You could, right? And that ID could have like when you open up the QR code and present them with this unique QR code, um, you could create a grain which is the name of a virtual actor in Orleans, that then um, gets created in a state that it's a state machine, right? It's waiting for to receive confirmation that the customer scanned it, and then when the customer scans it, they are obviously going to go to that QR code URL, and that QR code URL is going to then route a message back to that grain who's waiting. Now that grain that's waiting will know then, based off of the information received, like how to communicate back to the courier app to say, hey, or the vendor app to say, hey, they scanned this, and then the app could actually just close right away the QR code and say like, yep, it's been accepted or whatever. Good, you're good to go.
You're
Or
so smart. I never considered that.
yeah, well, it's this is how I've been thinking about like, so when you're
And I
on,
could do the same thing in Service Bus. I'm going to force Service Bus to do all this before I rewrite it.
yeah, no, that's fine. Um, but that's what I'm thinking of is I've been trying to think of like how does Amazon, for instance, do when you have a Fire Stick and you plug it in and then you're like, hey, go to your browser and log in and enter this code, and then it just like, I don't know if it's, I'm assuming it's just sitting there polling, but it gets this unique code and then you enter the code in and then it'll like, your TV automatically recognizes you're there. But that real time communication between kind of like you and the devices, I think is really cool. You wouldn't have to use Orleans for it. I just think that flow is really neat. Where as soon as they scan the QR code, there isn't any reason that event of them scanning the QR code couldn't then trigger a chain of events that causes the QR code to just it automatically knew it was scanned on the
Well,
courier's
I
device.
would need, wouldn't I need to know the GPS coordinate of that scan code in
Not
order
if
to reason which courier on the beach is closest to the that scan?
Okay, so this is the vendor that's popping this up, right?
I mean vendor. That's what I meant to say. Yeah.
So your vendor's there and they've got their account in the device, right? And they are going to bring up a QR code. So vendor has their ID in the device. They bring up the QR code. Customer scans it. That scanned QR code should contain a ID, unique ID that represents that unique instance of presenting the good to them. And then that whole like chain of events from there, would pop off. Um, so it's just routing it back to that correlation ID that's passed between
That
the
that
vendor.
QR code is nothing but a it's nothing but an encoded link
Yeah,
to a URL.
yeah, and that encoded link could contain a bunch of data, including an ID that says here's the unique instance of the QR code that was presented. It doesn't have to be a static thing. You could generate them.
But how do you okay? The customer is just using their camera, right? So there's no app that manipulates logic for me. So I guess my mental block is the customer scans the link
Hmm.
and their phone is completely agnostic about my services except for it's literally just a stateless, you know, URL or it's just taking them to a URL.
Yeah, the
I don't
URL hits a web, a, hits an API that you're offering, like from a backend service, right? Or is it going
it's
to
going
directly
it's going to it's literally going to the Stripe store
the
where I host where I build a catalog where
yeah,
customers can purchase from.
but you should have like a but you should have an intermediary there in case you want to swap out swipe Stripe, right? So you have an abstraction that represents the redirector. Like
Hmm.
you receive in at, let's say, beachmobile dot you know gg or beachmobile.io slash whatever path, and then here's all the coordinates and unique ID, whatever. You receive that that message. The actual web application is just going to redirect you to the Stripe store where you should go, potentially providing more information about what you actually need to display to them on the Stripe store. but the behind that the scenes, it can take that ID and that other information that comes in and then route that to other places to set up other things, right? And so it could route it back to the courier app or the vendor who presented that QR code and say, um, yep, they actually scanned this. It can be closed now. Like, confirm that. um, there's no reason that they need to keep this up anymore, or display like some sort of like success scan notification. I don't, who knows? I don't really know what the UX should look like on it, but I and don't get me wrong, I don't know that that's needed, but I think it'd be cool to have that automatically happen. Regardless, it would be better to, rather than direct them right to Stripe Store, to redirect them to some app that you own, and then redirect them from there, because then you don't need to update your you wouldn't need to update you'd never need to update the QR code logic to go to any other different site. You just would change the backend service to to redirect them wherever you want them to go. So maybe today it's a Stripe store, but maybe tomorrow it's your own checkout store or something. Who knows? Or if you want them to go to Google Play or whatever, kind of like a URL shortener does.
Mm. I'm gonna have to re-listen to this entire session.
Yeah, I could
Talk,
draw you a
talk to
picture, but
reference.
it's yeah. I don't know. Do you ever? What do you use for drawing pictures of your stuff?
I use Lucid Charts.
Okay.
You familiar with that?
Yeah, yeah. I think I've got an account for work. Um, I actually end up using draw.io because it's free. That's what I end up using a lot of it. But actually, I don't know. Some things about it I like better than Lucid, and then some things obviously you can do a lot more with Lucid than that. But yeah, I think I'm gonna start a blog about Orleans because I'm still just like really fascinated by it, and the documentation is good, but it's hard to make sense of. It's not actually that great because they changed stuff with 7 and it hasn't caught up yet. But um, I really like I really like thinking about I really like thinking about like developing applications with Orleans because it's just it changes the way I think about things. I think about like these atomic like units or objects that are out there, and um, it's more. I feel like it's more pure object oriented. Um,
Why can't I
you
find my thing? I'll quit.
know.
Oh, I could, if you're interested, which you're probably not. I could add you to this Azure DevOps, and you could see my brain dump of everything that is going on, or everything that's in my head.
Oh man, Gambler's been on. I've totally missed all of his messages. We've been
Oh, hey, Gambler.
well. He left. No, he's back again. 7-Eleven. He's back. Hey, BitConnect. BitConnect. I don't know what he meant. Ancient meme. Commonly randomly. Box running everything, not cloud services
Hey,
unless
hey,
cloud.
hey. Sorry, ancient meme coming randomly into my mind. Oh well, my approach for apps, one box running everything. Cloud service unless, of
Yeah,
course, as well as on the cloud bit, but
that's why I like. That's why to Gambler's comment, it would be for you 801, for me it's 701. Um, that's why one of the things. Well, so microservices you can start with a single box and scale out, and you can with monoliths still scale out stuff, but then you're potentially scaling out like all of your capabilities across many apps. There isn't any reason that this couldn't have all been built as a monolith, modular monolith, not a we need like a better term for that, like because there's like microservices and then there's microservices within a single deployed unit. and they are two wildly different ways of thinking about stuff. It's like you get all the benefit of microservices without the costs of microservices, which is the deployment and monitoring and all of that crap.
That
But
stuff. Look at all these
yeah,
services running right now for my courier app.
yeah, there's no reason that all of those things, for the most part, could exist in a single deployed unit, right? And then they could
Yeah,
each
it's just what are the what's the maintenance concerns? I mean, it goes both ways, right?
none. I mean, it's the same, right? Actually it's less. So the big risk is that you have, when you're in an organization, that you have somebody make a reference between two things that shouldn't exist, and then now you've got coupling that you didn't want. Or you make like a library that exists between two things. Now you have coupling you don't want. But assuming that you're very strict about saying that these projects do not reference each other, this project, this set of projects, or this project in here, in this folder, whatever, does not reference something from this project. Um, you could,
And you rely on human discipline
yeah,
because
or
that's
just
always the case. It's always reference abstractions over implementation details, right? It
yeah.
it
But
it never happens when you have more than two people working on a project.
I'd take that over. I'd take that risk because you can undo it fairly easily. You just say, nope, go and undo that code, right? So if it goes out in the wild, even if it goes to production for a while, you could take that as tech debt, refactor it, and put it back into the place in the architecture. You could. It wouldn't take much, a quarterly review of the code from somebody within an organization to say, hey, if you're going to build out this model, don't do this, and to track back. It could be a monthly or even a sprint wise thing. Um, but but
You
yeah,
know, Sean, it would be an awesome opportunity if you decide to uh, prepare a conference talk on Orleans, and then use this as a case study, and you refactor the back end to accommodate customers and couriers and all that stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
As a one, see, I wouldn't even go as. The thing is I wouldn't even separate them now. I'd probably have it just as one monolithic Orleans application, because Orleans, it's kind of like every object you create could be it. It's like it's different the way you think about it, and there's definitely cases where microservices make better sense. But it's like like a courier, right, exists as an object, right? In this world, there's some object somewheres that represents a courier, even if it's just the ID and some basic data about them, whatever. Um, but that courier will exist in one grain across the entire cluster of things, and all your messages are going to get routed to that same thing, regardless of where it is. But there's no concurrency concerns with like multiple services that you deploy having to um, all accessing the same courier at the same time and clobbering each other. I don't know that I can speak well enough yet to like why Orleans is so cool. I'm just really fascinated by the technology. I do know for specifically like one scenario that I'm really eyeing it for is for inventory, um, and overselling, because that is a concurrency issue. So you've got, in an inventory system, let's say you have 5 of some item, right? And then you've got 2 or 3 or 4 or n number of competing people trying to buy that 5 items from you, right? So you got 5, and you've got a bunch of people trying to at the same time trying to access and get that 5. There's a lot of ways that can go wrong if you're not worried about the concurrency issue, right? So you have 3 people all try to get it at the same time, and now you've got one person who gets it the 5, and then 2 people who are oversold up to 10 units of an item. So with Orleans, what you could do is model an item as a grain, and then all three of those requests get routed to the same grain, regardless of where it is in the cloud, um, and are processed in a single thread. So there's no parallel processing between them globally, like right. And so one person will get the 5, and the other 2 will get rejections every time, based on how that's structured, unless there's a split brain type thing going on where you've got, you know, nodes out of balance or something like that. But that should be like a very rare occurrence. So tech problems can happen, but that should be the exception, like a considerably more exceptional than it would be just to get this to happen. If you have an event where people are trying to consume a lot of items.
Yeah, so you should write this back in, and then you can like do a conference talk on it, and then you can get some equity for something that makes absolutely no money right now. Yeah,
Yeah,
all
shoot me
that.
some equity, man. I want 50% of nothing. Yeah, you got 50% of nothing. Now you got nothing still.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Man, though I don't know. I do, like I said, I'm thinking about starting a blog on it. I bought a domain name just in case, to host
Well,
it at, but
just I'm kind of nudging you, right? Just take into consideration that the application is beach delivery, but the actual solution is order fulfillment that could be licensed out as a backend service. That's all.
yeah,
And so that's a common need for many businesses, and that's something that I would like to provide a solution and make money off of as another channel or as another stream of income.
yeah,
I'm a I'm hiring a WordPress developer to basically when people scan the QR codes on tents and umbrellas and stuff like that, they'll go to the website, and I want this website to basically look extremely professional enough that it appears to be a trustful, legitimate business for people to hand over their Visa or MasterCard. It's yeah, that's it.
yeah. WordPress. I was gonna say you could probably do it yourself. WordPress isn't that hard to get into. But I have thought about like,
I thought you had to know PHP and
no,
MySQL,
if you want to develop custom plugins and stuff.
and I do.
Like what though?
If they're not willing to download the app because I don't know, the app isn't supported in iOS yet, then they can go to the website and make a purchase
Oh,
for
then you're
rental.
not looking for. Well, okay. So then,
It's
no, you could
tried.
still.
It's the thought process is okay. The mission, right, is to accommodate beachgoers. That's the mission.
Yeah,
There's a whole bunch of different products to address or support that mission. Hence, a vendor product that patrols the beach to make it easier for them to give the customer what they need. The the customer app, right, for them to request what they want and have it conveniently dropped off to them. The mission is to accommodate customers, and if the app isn't available, then they can go to a website, make a purchase, and then we can figure out how to get that product over to them.
yeah. So why use so with WordPress? Then what you're talking about is you're talking about a custom landing page, no code required. Um, if you're looking at that e-commerce stuff, then you're talking about it will probably be WooCommerce added in with a bunch of SKUs that need to get imported. Um, you might be even better off paying for Shopify if you actually envision that stuff like that will come through that way. Then you have a lot more flexibility in terms of using their API to create like invoices and or like a custom order type thing that they could access and pay through. Um, Shopify is pretty, but all of the tools for both WordPress, most of that is all just configuring the thing. It's
All
not
right. So
coding it.
let me go back. Uh, the website. Do I still have my?
That's why WordPress developers should be cheap, is because it's not really it's a configuration task. It's not really a coding task.
Well, yeah, I was preparing to pay
Very
like
little of it is code.
$500-600 to have something very, very professional. Because here's the
Yeah,
motivation.
you need a
How,
designer.
how do I get customers to believe? How do I get customer confidence that when they pay the money, they're not going to get scammed? Like how do I increase confidence? Right. My thought process is to demonstrate that I take this business seriously and I'm going to invest in a professionally done website amongst a whole bunch of other professionally done stuff that can be observed by a customer.
Yeah.
Second part is when I'm passing out my business card, how can I get potential partners such as your beach shops that hug the areas that are closest to the beach so that they can become carriers or depots for picking up and dropping off rental equipment,
Yeah.
right? How can I get their confidence so that those are busy people? How can I profess or project?
No, that all makes sense. That like
Uh,
you have to do all that. I'm just saying when
and
you're
then the other one's investors, right? When
yeah
I go when I go in front of whatever South Florida accelerator or incubator, or I decide to man up and apply for a Y Combinator, how can I show them that I'm really focused and this is important to me and this is how serious I am? And I think a front facing or consumer facing website can probably convey some of that.
yeah yeah no, it's just make sure that you get the right type of WordPress developer. You want somebody who knows design and can make it look nice. You don't want a person who knows PHP. And well, I mean that might be the same person, by the way. There's no reason it can't be. But I would ask
It,
for a portfolio of pages that they've built, and then go from that. um, and try to find some, because and a lot of these guys, what they're going to do is they're going to find a template that matches what they think your business model is and your use cases. Then they'll just customize that template, and that's what you're paying for, which is fine. Like
yeah.
it's a pain in the ass to customize templates. um, it's a pain in the ass to customize WordPress if you're going above and beyond just throw my blog on here and whatever. But um, it like you have to know about the right buttons and levers to pull, but it is all just pulling levers and stuff. You don't need a developer. You need a I would find somebody who's a designer that has WordPress skills first, rather than a developer who has WordPress skills, if that makes sense.
It does.
Because yeah, and for the actual, like, if you're trying to take a sale from there, there's a WooCommerce plugin that comes in, like it's used on like a billion WordPress sites. WooCommerce as a plugin to
How do you
do.
know so much about WordPress?
As I've looked at it, I've used it. Um, it's when I was starting gonna do that game thingy.
Hmm.
I was gonna the box thing. I was actually gonna do the same thing as what you're talking about, and I think I even did have like a nice landing page that I signed myself, to go there, and it's really just an info page, right, with buttons to go out to. When you would get there, and there'd be a big call to action that says something like, was like start your box or whatever, and then that would bring you to the actual application website where you'd actually start customizing your thing. But I've dug through WordPress when I've done blogs and stuff, and I think I've looked at it for the commerce thing. Plus my wife's business uses WordPress, and I've helped her with some questions and things with that too, which actually is another business idea that I don't know why there isn't. And every time I follow the course of events, it's because like things like Wix and WordPress eventually you have enough, like, I want to do this, I want to do this, and you can't. But there really needs to be just like a dead simple mode for people who want a website but don't want to have to pay someone to configure it. Like, you literally just pick your
I think it's
color,
going to
you enter some
be
text, enter some pictures.
it's
It's
going to
like
be open
all
AI.
prescriptive. Yeah, it will be. Yeah, yeah,
They're
that's
like,
true.
I need a because honestly, like I've been using OpenAI or I've been using ChatGPT to write my abstracts for each of the products.
Yeah,
So the vendor app, customer app, courier app. I'm missing the referral app. I use ChatGPT to write it.
yeah, that makes sense. I
You
think,
want to?
I
Let me
think looking
share.
at ChatGPT, what it, at least for now, maybe in the future once the tooling around it gets more complex, um, can you sell license keys on Shopify, or is there a license key equivalent on Shopify? Um, for Gambler's question, I think you would just define a SKU. Um, you can define whatever SKUs you want, so there's no reason you couldn't define a license key as a SKU. I'm not sure about what their recurring revenue or their recurring. I'm pretty sure that they'd have that, but I mean that might all be done through Stripe or something too. I don't really know. I'm sure if you Googled it, you'd find that answer in about 5 seconds. But
So ChatGPT wrote this. Beach Mobile makes it easier for people to enjoy the beach by offering a range of products and rentals through a convenient mobile app. Our products include sun protection and refreshments that help beachgoers stay comfortable and nourished throughout the day. We also offer rentals of phone chargers, Bluetooth stereo speakers, canopies, and games to enhance the beach experience. Beachgoers can download our app through Android's Google Play Store. Apple App Store is not yet supported. In addition, beachgoers can also connect with us on Instagram for updates and inspiration. In conclusion, our mission is to reduce the burden of beachgoing. And then the different products is oh crap. I thought actually no, it's the wrong document. Hold up. It's over here.
yeah,
Uh
the
that's Beach Mobile. Here we yeah. So here's the vendor one that ChatGPT wrote. Beach Mobile Vendor is an app that helps beach vendors sell refreshments and rent out their equipment to customers on the beach. Customers can receive status updates and friendly reminders about their orders and rental pickups via text message. The app also allows vendors to accept payment through Visa and MasterCard using QR codes that can be scanned with a smartphone. Beach Mobile Vendor provides vendors with the ability to view their sales history and GPS locations of sales, making it a convenient and efficient tool for managing their business on the beach. All right. ChatGPT is a beast, man.
yeah,
Google is in trouble.
yeah,
Same thing.
I think they issued a red flag warning that they need to invest more in AI, because they're like this, like, why would you ever Google when you could just ask Chat GPT to do, to tell you all of the things. Um, but I think, I was at first a little worried, like, oh man, this is going to replace software development and whatever. No, no, there's no way. I've done enough with it now where it does not know how to do things well enough. But I'm seeing that people who, software developers who learn to use it, are going to be probably double or triple, or and I think too, like Copilot, which is based on ChatGPT, it's just using the same engine for code generation. Like, that was already there, so it isn't like this came out of nowhere. We've had Copilot for a while. Um, I think it's just going to make you more efficient, and so as a developer, so it could, cause the supply. It could cause the supply side of developers to be gluttonous, the demand, because you might get more productive people. Um, but there's no way it's going to replace us, because it's just, no, it's not gonna. I'd be more worried about copyright developers though, because
Well, a lot of the answers,
copywriting is, yeah.
I've been posting questions on Stack Overflow and people with like 1 point write me an essay of of an answer for my question. And it's I mean, you could tell it was derived from ChatGPT because the answer is in Java and not in .NET.
Yeah, probably.
I've had that happen like 2 to 3 times already in the past week.
Yeah,
So hold
Stack
on, let me.
Overflow might get obsolete. So that it's going to cause change, but it's not going to. It's just like anything. It's another tool in the toolbox. You know what I really love using it for though? Naming problems. I have a really tough time naming this thing. Describe what these terms are. What are related terms? What are other ways I could describe this? And going back and forth, like, does this name make sense? And it'll be like, this conveys this. Well, this conveys this, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I will name it this instead of this. Like I've taken a mental model of how I've thought of like so in an e-commerce platform, I've taken the idea of like what is inventory, what is a listing, what's an offer on all these terms, and I've been like just I think that this is what it is. Describe for me what all of these terms are and how they relate to each other. And sure enough, my mental model matched what its model it came up with for those things. So it's like validation and naming things, dude. I am sold on it. Plus, I had it right yesterday. I had it write me a Shakespearean. What did I have it do? A poem about how the antivirus software on every work machine I've ever had chews up my CPU at the wrong time, making it so that I can't be productive. Like I don't know,
Hmm.
they run at like 4 o'clock on a Friday, and it's like I'm still working here, and that's the honestly Friday afternoons most productive time of my week. Whatever reason, Friday I'm usually like 10x more productive than I am the rest of the week, and that's when the like antivirus decides to run and chew up my CPU and make me like it just I don't know. I got to talk to someone about that. Can you run it at like you know a different time of the day, please? So sorry, I'm just
No,
going off the
it's
rails there.
it's antivirus software is just another form of virus. It
Yeah,
consumes your the resources, it makes you less productive, and it causes frustration. I don't know what the difference is.
yeah. Other than that, if it's
Besides, it comes from IT. They're the source of it versus some Russian. So
yeah, it's probably the lesser of two evils in there. But just being smart about what you're doing most of the time, you're fine.
let me try to read Gambler's stuff. Similar in our company for apps which I have not yet many customers. The deployments and testing is way more. You only live once compared to apps which already have a larger customer base. Then silly question: can you sell license keys on Shopify, or is there a license key equivalent for Shopify?
Oh,
Did
there's
you
and
did you answer that already?
yeah, I did. Like I said, I think you can define whatever SKUs you want and sell them in any way you want. I don't know if you can. I don't know what their recurring thing is, but there are a billion. Like kind of like with WordPress, there are a lot of plugins to Shopify. So if you want to do something e-commerce related, Shopify will probably there's a plugin that will do it for you. Same with WordPress though. There's if you want it, there's probably a plugin that does most of what you want. So
I gotta buy a lamp so that my blackness doesn't show on this webcam.
me too. I want to make
Man,
it so that
like
my whiteness shows more.
like it's weird how you buy one solution, then you realize that there's an ecosystem that you have to buy in order for that solution to really deliver
Here, let
to
me see if I can.
expectations.
Oh, does this work? Hold on. Oh, there we go. Make me more white. I
Mm, dot
no.
dot dot.
There we go.
I I've been waiting. I got a defective chin mount kit for my helmet cam. So I had to send them a YouTube video, and they're sending me an update. I've been wanting to start my moto vlogging channel for a while now, and it just seems like it's taking forever to get the hardware in place. Everything's about hardware. Hardware is so important. I got
Yeah.
a Odie and I are supposed to be starting our tech conception YouTube channel this weekend. We'll see. This is one of the main motivations for me getting this webcam or this high definition webcam.
Gotcha. Yeah, I might. Like I said, well, so they're doing a Ludum Dare thing today or this weekend in January.
Man, they
And
do
I've
it.
failed at like they've done it twice a year for the last. They used to do it 3 times a year, but they've done it twice a year for the last like 4 or 5 years, or no, 2 3 years maybe. Um, I don't. I've failed like the last so many of them, and like I need to put a W on the board. So I've already decided I'm going to build a lunar lander clone, and that's what I'm going to do. And then I'll figure out a way to put the theme in after. Lunar lander is like a simple game.
Like Kerbal.
Yeah, but it's just lunar lander. You ever played that? I guess it
No.
started as a text-based game. I didn't even realize that. So basically, you're just the lunar lander, and then you have to you know, make sure you bring your ship down at the correct speed and land on a spot.
I think it's more complicated than that, but yes.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. You want to know why?
Why?
Because during the Great Bombardment uh, of our solar system, when it comes to Earth and the Moon, the Moon was getting slammed with asteroids, in which the the gravity pull or the gravity well of the moon is different in different areas based on the amount of iron or nickel that deposited in different regions of the moon from that bombardment, which is why the astronauts, when trying to land on the moon, were having a difficult time and almost ran out of fuel because it was calculated that they were supposed to land in a relatively flat or safe area, but instead the calculation was going to land them in steep boulders, and so they had to take manual control over it to navigate to a safer area, and that was because of the gravitational pull of certain areas of the moon that wasn't accounted for. Boom! That's why.
Yeah, but this is a game. Talking about how the game is simple, not not the actual landing of the moon, which wouldn't be done this way. I'm sure.
I played Kerbal one time. I couldn't understand how to play it after like
Space
five
Engineers is a
minutes.
pretty good game. You can actually code C sharp like modules in. Ah, oof, perfect landing right there. Look at that. I'm gonna build a clone of this game, and then I'm gonna after I build that clone, then I'm gonna figure out how to put the theme on top of it, and that's what I'm gonna do. If I can't complete, if, unless I get sucked into something else this weekend, if I can't complete a game, just this part of the game in 2 days, man, I'm over as a software developer, dude.
When you select view source, are you able to get the JavaScript code?
And that's probably
Yeah, you should just copy paste and say I'm done.
no. I wanted to do it. Plus, I'm gonna probably. I don't know if I'll do it as a web. I'm low on fuel, man.
I
I'm just gonna
wonder
drift down and see if I can
I
survive.
wonder what technology aliens use. I don't. Do you think all intelligent life outside of Earth rely on what do you call it? What do you call it when you shoot something from one end and you go in the opposite direction? Yo, he just literally dropped off. Gamlor, Sean literally just terminated the connection.
Yeah, I meant to terminate the share, and I terminated
Uh,
the connection instead.
what do you
Sorry.
call when you rely on like outputting propellant? You think intelligent? You think aliens rely on propellant to navigate?
I don't know, man. I don't. I have no idea. I'm sure that they did at some point because it's the simplest form of that, right? We have other ways to do that now, don't we? I haven't
I
looked at
don't
it.
think so. I don't think we navigate using magnetism. I think we
Well,
use
why not?
propellant.
Yeah, I'm sure we do. No, isn't there like an ion drive? Is that a propellant though?
Yeah, it shoots out electrons.
Ion thruster, man.
It shoots out. It's a thruster. It shoots out electrons.
Hmm. Yeah, it's propulsion. Hmm. Why aren't we just shifting or floating
Like
space?
the alien stories are that aliens, I say aliens like as if it's all 100 trillion of them,
Yeah.
but they rely on like they've mastered gravity wells in order for them to
Yeah, I was gonna
move
say
back and forth.
we use gravity to return to Earth. We just use propulsion to get away from things, right?
And that's physics. I still
Man, you
think
could. What about like gravity surfing? Like, I'm sure that we do a lot of that actually with
that
like.
would be called skydiving.
No, I mean like I'm assuming like you put like in the solar system when we're launching like satellites and things to other planets to observe them. Like I'm sure that we're using like the gravitational pull of things to kind of like surf basically through
Mm,
through the solar system.
well, you're not referring to Lagrange points, are you?
No idea. I'm not a space nerd.
So
Um,
You have Lagrange
yeah,
points,
we do use
right?
gravity assists for cameras. Confirmed.
So Lagrange points are like the midway between two gravity wells, whether it's the Earth, the Sun, or the Moon, in which it finds the the balance or the center of gravity between the two,
Oh,
so
okay.
that it kind of floats or whatever.
Well, that's neat. Gravity is such an interesting thing. Like, and the idea that it's like folding or that it's like it's skewing space and time, and it's like, man, it just blows my mind. Like how that all works. And thinking
Gravity.
about like a yeah, thinking about planes, like how you're pulled towards the Earth because it's literally like sucking down like space time towards you towards it is freaking insane.
Never thought about it like that.
Yeah, there's some really good visualizations that people have done out there where they'll take a flat plane and then they'll put a ball in the middle, and the ball, but depending on it says the ball and the weight and what a mass, it'll pull that plane down. So it's like a cloth, right? Like a elastic cloth, which is supposed to be like the space time fabric, right? And it pulls it down, and then you could see if you put like a ball and start to kind of like those coin machines at the or coin things you see in the mall.
Are you
Like you
describing orbit?
yeah, you'll see them orbit, and basically what they're doing is they're just, they're basically slowly like circling around it in that way because there's this well where that thing is. But I don't know how you do that in all of the dimensions. It's like at one time.
So Gambler did answer your question. He said
Yeah,
that we don't necessarily rely on propellant when we send probes out in space. They also rely. I mean, they rely on propellant, but they
yeah,
also benefit from gravity assist.
yeah. That's every single movie about space stuff is like we're going to use this to slingshot you,
Yeah.
but it's true. I mean, like I was thinking about the Apollo 13, the movie the other day, and it's been a long ass time since I've watched that. Because I was thinking about this lunar lander thing, and I'm like, I wonder what the controls and everything are in a lunar lander, and like what complex controls you could add to a lunar lander game for those kinds of things. But yeah, so it's harnessing the gravity assist, and then you adjust based on things.
I'm
I
so
should just create
convinced.
a game where you're just trying to surf around the solar system and you use gravity wells to see to see how and orbiting. Yeah.
I'm still convinced that there's other solutions that aren't necessarily physics based.
Well, there is, right? Folding space time, isn't it? Well, it's physics based, but it's not
Yeah.
propulsion. It's
Well, my
you fold
overdose on
space time.
psychedelics have made me consider that the mind is more powerful than we understand, and that there's probably other ways using the mind to achieve certain objectives versus relying on physical hardware and the laws of physics.
Yeah, and that fits certainly fits with simulation theory, right? Well, I guess it depends on if I don't know. It depends on how we are in an actor as an actor in the sim theory, but I mean that would be the case, right? Is that there's a
It would be the
metaphysical
cheapest way to get back and forth.
like literally. Well, and that's well, no, there is, and two, because that was the Nobel Prize this year, right? Was that um, there is I don't that locality is not real or something like that is what they proved. So basically, like if you have two quantumly bound particles, it does not matter how far away they are in the universe. If you flip this one flips the other way,
Quantum
and
entanglement.
it's yeah, and it's not a there's no like causal relationship between the two because the it doesn't matter how far they're away, they could be light years away. The actual entanglement spans, so there's no faster than speed of light message going between the two. It is that they are entangled at some way that's faster than the speed of light. It's mind blowing if you start
How do
digging
they
into that.
test that? I don't
I know
understand
they
how they
figured it
test
out.
that.
They figured it out. I don't know, but it's friggin' neat if you start digging into that, and it blows your mind. Like one
Yeah,
guy
they
was
just
talking about, like, well, what if, how could you use quantum entanglement, right? Imagine the internet if you were to do quantum entanglement like that.
porn would be awesome.
Well, it's like you'd have no lag. Everything would be exactly like if you could get, let's just say, 8 quantum entangled um, particles, right, and measure them flipping on and off, and to adjust them, whatever. You could send messages back and forth anywhere in the universe instantaneously. Not even, not with any lag at all. You'd be anywhere in the universe and still get the same message back and it'd be just sorry. I gotta run. I gotta get ready for my work day here, but damn, that's pretty exciting. We should do a geek out
Geek
about
out.
that stuff one day.
Yeah, let me know.
Yep.
All right, it's been real. See
Yep.
ya.
See ya. Bye.
Hi, Gambler. It's been real. Thanks for contributing answers to things that are above my head. And we'll catch up. See ya. Bye.